Rest in preference is probably the most insane and also fitting comment that I've seen regarding this story. Let's get into it. I'm gonna give you guys a quick synopsis because you know I like to get into the bigger picture of things. You know it's your girl, Kiki Palmer voice, the history doll. So this is a case coming out of Burke County. Telvin Osborne and Hannah Cobb were actually a couple. Recently, they were out all night and they got back to their place, and Hannah, for some reason, was either cleaning her pew-pew or like doing something with it. Nobody knows. All we know is that this man was shot and unalived. Following his passing, a lot of old tweets have been surfacing of him denigrating Black women, saying that he would rather have sexual relationships with a dog than to be with a Black woman. Like all of these crazy and insane things. And in response, the majority of Black women have been like, this is not our fight. And of course, they're not wishing unaliving upon Black men, but they are basically saying they're not sending no condolences, they're not marching in no streets, none of that. And as a person who studies our nation's history, I find this to be so fascinating. The contrast in the social environment that we live in now in regard to interracial marriage is the complete opposite of what it was in the 1950s and 60s. Did you guys know that a Black woman is the reason why we can date and marry interracially legally now in 2025? So on a July night in 1958, Richard and Mildred Loving were arrested in their bed in Virginia. The couple had traveled to Washington, D.C., where it was legal the month before, and came back home and were hoping to be able to just live their lives peacefully. But unfortunately, as I said, they were arrested and they were given an ultimatum. They could either both serve 1 year in prison or they could leave the state of Virginia for 25 years. So the Lovings family, including their kids, moved up to Washington, D.C. Unfortunately, they didn't necessarily like the inner city lifestyle. They preferred being back in Virginia. They were even arrested a second time for traveling together when they came back to Virginia to visit Mildred's family. The reason they kept getting arrested is because Virginia's Racial Integrity Act of 1924 states that marriage between races is prohibited. So Miss Mildred took it upon herself to write to the Attorney General at the time, Robert Kennedy, to express her concerns and the issues that she was having. From there, Robert Kennedy shares this information with the ACLU, which they're doing great work in 2025 right now for trans people. Bless y'all. They were able to escalate this to the Supreme Court, and the Lovings won, and 16 states followed suit. The antiquarian nature that I possess would not allow me to not point out the disparity. Because despite the person who fought for interracial marriage and dating being a Black woman, in 2025, the percentage of Black men dating outside of their race is double, if not more, than Black women dating outside of their race. It's just an interesting dichotomy.